So
then this is what he is.
All right, so I think it is far more fair and far more instructive for the Niners to judge Brock Purdy off this season than last season when you're projecting forward. Last season, Brock Purdy had an all-world running back. Most quarterbacks will go their whole career and not have their running back have the season Christian McCaffrey had. And if they're lucky, it maybe happens once or twice, if you're lucky. He had last season a great wide receiver in Brandon Ayuk playing at a great level. And last season, Debo was good. Debo might not have been a Pro Bowler last year. He was good last year and had an all-pro tight end. He had the second most Pro Bowlers on the Niners last year of any team in the league. This year, what he has is what was a weakness last year, the offensive line. Brew kept throwing this stat up last year. I don't know how much he likes it this year. According to PFF, the league's 12th best offensive line, so an above-average offensive line. I would say average skill position players on offense. Great tight end, fine wide receivers, fine running backs, right around league average. It is more like the type of team you are going to typically have around you in this league, particularly when the quarterback is highly paid, which is why I think it would be doing your franchise a disservice if you're the Niners, if you are not quietly having meetings of, all right, guys, if this season, if 5-7 turns into 6-11, which it very well could given their schedule and their injuries.
Yep, with injury season.
Once upon a time, we made a Super Bowl, lost to the Chiefs, and then won 6 games the next year. And then they did something that was drastic, traded 3 first-round picks for the wrong quarterback.
Right.
They just lost a Super Bowl to the Chiefs. They have another 6-win season, and they have their own top 10 pick where you don't have to trade anything. And the quarterback on your roster is like, hey, 60-ish million, say he doesn't even say 60. Say he says, you're not paying me less than Trevor Lawrence. Make an argument as to why you're paying me less. You're not paying me less than Trevor Lawrence at 55. Right, it would be by his agent. That's what his agent should be doing. And by the way, you have the benefit of, you could get a first-round pick for Brock Purdy. You would.
From who?
I have to see how the draft falls and who drafts, but I would, in a world where Darnold went for a 2, a 4, and a 6, Jets to Panthers, Brock Purdy on $1 million a year.
Who needs a quarterback willing to give a first?
If Russ signs somewhere and Pittsburgh leaves, I don't know, but that's something you would certainly get something for him.
Sure.
And because you haven't paid him, you would have no dead cap, none of it. I think that we are much more likely to see this Brock Purdy moving forward. And Brock Purdy's last 16 games, he's not a bad player. But he's not a guy, take record out of it. If that's who he is, it is crippling to pay that player $55 million.
All right, so you can hear Nick there just really questioning how Brock Purdy is going to look from here on out. He's saying for the 49ers, they need to look at this like, hey, this season, the way Brock is playing, this is how he's going to play from here on out in his career. And he's just saying that last year, 2023, McCaffrey had that insane season, offensive player of the year. I think he had over 2,000 scrimmage yards. He had an amazing season. Less injuries. People were playing better around him. Even Debo looked much better than Debo. I mean, Debo's looked terrible this year. So, he's just saying this is more like the roster that's going to be around Brock Purdy here on out. Now, I don't know if that's really true with all of the injuries. I mean, I don't know if the Niners are going to continue to sustain these types of injuries every year. I mean, this has been the season from hell when it comes to injuries. So, I don't know if that's going to be the case. But if they do go out and pay Brock, $60 million a year, it's definitely going to limit their ability to have a lot of great talent around him. They're just not going to be able to keep so many Pro Bowlers and all-pro players around him if they're paying him $60 million a year. So that's really a fair take there. We've seen it with other teams, right? Trevor Lawrence gets this massive contract, they fall apart. Dolphins get this massive contract to Tua, they fall apart. Cowboys, similar situation. Dak gets this fat contract. There's injuries in there as well, but, very similar situation where a quarterback gets a massive contract and then the team just falls apart and they're below 500 and they're not winning games. So, of course, Nick is continuing to rip Purdy here and really question whether the Niners should pay him a massive amount of money. And, Bruce just kind of bringing up what you see on the screen here. Like, you're ripping Purdy, you're questioning Purdy, you're saying don't pay Purdy, like a contract that's going to reset the QB market. But when you really look at it, his passer rating is above all these guys. And, Nick considers, of course, Mahomes at the top, right? He's always at the top of Mahomes' mountain. So he considers Mahomes better than Purdy. He considers Stafford better than Purdy. He is kind of comparable with, like, Geno. In the past, he has spoken how Trevor is supposedly a better player than Purdy, even though he hasn't actually performed, right? He's got more potential than Brock Purdy. And even Dak as well. And he claimed that Caleb was going to the Super Bowl, right? He was going to step in as a rookie and take the Chicago Bears to the Super Bowl. And he's also, said C.J. Stroud is better than Brock Purdy. But when you look at it, even with all these injuries and all the craziness, I mean, for the 49ers, players are getting shot. Children of the players are passing away, like 1 and 2 year old, children are passing away. I mean, this season has been really, really crazy for the 49ers. And even amidst all this chaos, look at Purdy's passer rating is still better than all these guys. A bunch of guys that Nick claims are better than Brock Purdy, right? So, I mean, Stafford, the Rams have dealt with a lot of injuries. So, you can definitely say that's a very similar situation to what's going on in San Francisco. And Brock Purdy still has Matt Stafford beat out on QBR. So, I want to know what you think about it. I mean, Brock Purdy, do you think from here on out, let's say they give him that huge contract, he resets the QB market here in the offseason, do you think Brock Purdy will return to 2023 form, start lighting up the stat sheet, leading the league or very top of the league, in yards, touchdowns, a low number of picks, QBR, yards per attempt? That's the only thing really that Brock Purdy is elite in this year is yards per attempt. I think he's like 8.4 if I'm not mistaken, so he's up there. Other categories he's struggling, but do you think Brock Purdy will return to that 2022-2023 form if the Niners give him the huge contract, or do you agree with Nick that kind of what we see this year, he's really struggling. He's 18th in completion percentage. He's only 12th in pass yards per game. So his TD to interception ratio is, 22nd in the league. His passer rating is 19th in the league. So, do you think what we see this year from Purdy is kind of what we will see in years to come if he gets the massive contract? So let me know what you think about it in the comments section. I appreciate you for taking the time to watch this, and I will talk to you soon.